For the month of January, we have the pleasure of honoring David R. Torncello, Jr., who served in the U.S. Navy.
Extraordinary times produce extraordinary individuals. David was one of those individuals. His service in the Navy during World War II.
At 18 years old, and went off and served in the Navy and did his job. Comes home in 1946 and uses the GI Bill and gets into Santa College and goes to Santa College, gets his degree. But most importantly, he joins the basketball team. Brings them to their first national championship, I believe, right?
We recognize his service through the Navy in World War II. We recognize his great work and the fact that he earned an American Campaign Medal and a World War II Victory Medal. Obviously someone who gave greatly, someone who defended this nation and all for which he stands.
Because I used to look at your dad. First of all, I looked at him, he was always well dressed. Wore sweaters a lot too. But always dressed with a smile. Always happy. Generally always with your mom.
Ability to come back, to make a decision to go to education, to get the degree, to work in the private sector, and then also take those private sector skills and bring them in to support his community, the public sector. Man also not only of community and country, but also of family and faith.
We're so grateful that you have shared your father with us and given us the opportunity to show a number of young people from Albany High School the example that he was and how important that is.
Things that he's accomplished certainly are reflected in your family each day as you're part of this community. So much a part of the community, not just this area here in Watervliet, but the county, Albany County as a whole.
Like many veterans, he didn't talk about his service very often. That was something that was very personal to him, quiet to him, and he very rarely talked about, other than the funny stories I said about sports. But you know what? As you were growing up, they would sneak out. The stories would sneak out from my dad. If you were particularly scared, either you had a big test or you had a job interview or you had something that you were very concerned about. He might tell you the story about the day that he was inducted and about getting on a train in Albany by himself and taking that train down to New York to be inducted and what that day was like and how that was the scariest day of his life he used to talk about. Okay? And that story would sneak out. And later on, as you grew up and you were a teenager and you might want to try to do something a little risky, a little shaky, he wasn't so sure about it. He would talk about VJ Day and that he was in Alameda, California, which is right outside of San Francisco, and the entire base went out to San Francisco to celebrate. And he and a couple of buddies stayed home and they got a couple of beers and they played cards in the barracks. And that night, a couple of his friends, 2 people from the base, they passed away from that celebration. And he would shake his head and he said, imagine making it through the whole war and passing away in a celebration that night. And he would just give you little snippets and little ideas of how he thought.